Okay, y'all, C.W. Harper. I'm going to do another reading from one of our authors at Oracle Book Art Publishing. And today I am reading from Ruth Ramsey, Candle of Dreams. Ruth is a Route 66 author, and she says about herself, a Western Oklahoma author, Ruth Ramsey was born and raised in Oklahoma and grew up on Route 66. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in English Education, and for over 30 years, she has taught students to write. She also has a background in journalism and has been a featured writer and contributing editor for newspapers in Casper, Wyoming, and women's editor and stringer for papers in Western and Northwest Oklahoma. And she is a phenomenal writer. This book really surprised me. I'm not usually much for romances unless they're period, medieval, fantasy, something like that. But this one is awesome. It surprised me all the way through, especially at the end. And I like a good twist at the end of a story. So let me get started. This is, let me see. This is from Matt's point of view. I often heard the older girl playing the piano. At first, I was under the impression it was Micah playing until she, when I complimented her, informed me that her sister Coralie was the one who played. The music on this particular day drifted out through the open windows and beckoned me to listen. It called to me of dreams and mystery. I was still standing there when Pap found me and laid into me for not mending the fence correctly. He gave me a contemptuous look before he spoke. He had no use for the dreamer in me and did his best to squash my dreams whenever he could, like the bugs he found on one of the corn leaves we grew when we were farmers. In spite of all his efforts, he never quite succeeded at making me less of a dreamer. Instead, his opposition fueled the fire. I guess if anyone were to blame for my dreams, it would be the teachers who taught me in grammar school, the ones who saw something better than the image I presented, a snot-nosed, overall-clad sharecropper's kid. Old Miss Timmons, my third-grade teacher, discovered my talent for reading and took me under her wing. She made sure I was supplied with lots of reading to challenge me. As I read and learned, I discovered worlds and possibilities beyond the everyday reality of a sharecropper's life. I soaked up the words and ideas like those plants in the Gillespie's garden soaked up water. Always I was thirsty for more. I learned there were other things beyond a mere day-to-day struggle to survive finer things, a world full of possibilities. I longed to experience them. Along with that awareness came the realization that I was confined by circumstances. That realization chafed my spirit, which longed to shed those circumstances and leave them behind like the locusts did their outgrown shells. As I grew older, I figured out that schooling was the key to unlock the doors I intended to open. I made up my mind to go places and see things, and yes, have good things, beautiful things. My plans didn't include having to leave school and wander the roads. That was something I didn't plan to do forever, nor did I intend to spend the rest of my life in a clapboard house on some farm somewhere, working for someone else. I was going to do well enough that I could provide for my mom and sisters and my brother. Pap could fend for himself. I glared at his back resentfully as I started after him. He didn't understand me at all. As I walked away from the house, I could hear the music resuming. Peaceful, mysterious, dark. It awakened all sorts of restless yearnings in me. I slowed my pace and leaned on the fence to listen. I badly wanted to know the maker of that music. So far, I hadn't managed to speak to her at all. She stayed mostly indoors, coming out only to head down the road for school or to bring us mason jars of water when her dad and we were working in the heat. On those occasions, she seemed as cool and remote as the music that wafted after me from those windows. Micah told me her name was Coralie. It suited her. I hoped to get a chance to talk to her at least. In the meantime, I was stuck with Micah. There wasn't much mystery there. She didn't seem to like me much. Anything I said was met with a sharp remark. I gave her one thing. She had spunk. In those dark eyes, a challenge sparked. She wasn't going to give me an inch when it came to work, and she worked as hard as any man. We often crossed swords, but I liked her. The music followed me as I headed down the road to the house, having already had the full measure of Pap's wrath, minus the usual cuff that came with it. I decided to see if Ma needed anything. Ma worried me. She covered up how bad she felt and said she was fine, but the coughing spells that racked her until she was bent and gasping gave the lie to what she said. Her dresses hung on her loosely, and where she was once plump, she was now wraith thin. Mary and Susie met me at the door and let me in. I scooped Mary up in one arm and hugged Susie with the other as they chatted excitedly about the rag dolls Ma was making them. The dolls would have dresses to match their own dresses. Mary patted my face and squeezed it between her hands and gave me a big smacking kiss. They were pretty girls, my sisters, and their corn blonde hair and blue eyes. I returned the kiss and set Mary down, going into the living room where Ma was busy sewing. Ma was using some flour, sacking material Mrs. Gillespie sent down to our house to make the girls' new dresses, using the treadle sewing machine she had been set on saving when we began our wanderings. When Pap wanted to leave it, our gentle mamma lost her temper. I've saved for a year to get that machine, she said. We are not getting rid of it. Pap took a look at her determined face, knew the battle was lost, and loaded the machine in her sewing box. In the truck, where they remained until we came here. Carefully unpacked from the truck, the sewing machine now held the place of honor in the living room. She kept it busy as she did the mending and making various things we needed. Currently, she was making the dresses for the girls because they had to look good for school. When Pap grunted and told her that he didn't see the point of sewing them since school would be out soon, she had simply ducked her head and gone on sewing. I knew she would win. The girls would go to school. Her quiet stubbornness helped her to manage Pap. Apart from her blow up in the skirmish over the sewing machine, she never argued but stood her ground in a way that didn't give an inch, even in the face of Pap's worst blustering. Ma was an industrious person. When she wasn't cooking and cleaning, her fingers were usually busy with some project. Nothing was ever wasted with Ma. She found a way to remake it into something wonderful. Our old clothes became rugs or pieces for a quilt, acquiring a new beauty in the pattern she sewed. She was at the machine when I came in. She looked up and smiled. "How was your day?" she asked, finishing off a seam and setting the project aside. I shrugged. So. We built fence. I didn't do it right. Mr. Gillespie decided to tell me how to do it, and Pap was mad. Her eyes met mine in sympathy. It's what I loved about Ma. She understood how I felt. She would never speak against Pap, but I knew without her saying that she didn't always agree with him. She always supported me in my dreaming. She wanted something better for me. I jumped as the door slammed open. It was Abel. He was dirty from head to foot, and streaks of mud dribbled down his face from a haphazard session at the pump. "Land sakes, Abel Michael Winston. How did you get so dirty?" Ma'am exclaimed. "You just march yourself back out and shake all the extra dirt off and then actually use enough to get clean enough to come in my house." "Yes'm." He banged the screen again as he went back out. It was too late. There were muddy tracks across the floor. Ma'am shook her head and started to get up from the sewing machine. "I'll get it, ma'am. You just take it easy." "Thank you, son. Could you also go out and see that he gets himself clean?" The words were punctuated by a cough. Muttering under my breath about Abel's inability to be considerate, I started cleaning up the mess before he left. Abel, I imagined, could go toe-to-toe with Huck Finn, a fellow I once read about in a book by Mark Twain. Unlike me, Abel didn't dream of bigger things, at least that I could see. His main purpose in life seemed to be to plague his little sisters and make work for Ma, who loved him beyond measure anyway. Pap didn't have patience for him at all, not that Pap ever showed any for me either. So I ran interference for my little brother and tried to teach him things, like manners. I didn't think I was a very good teacher because the lessons didn't seem to take. He was as harum-scarum as ever. When I finished cleaning up the mess, he tracked in. I grabbed a towel and a cake of soap and went out to the pump. Abel was energetically flailing the pump handle up and down with very little result. He was a scrawny kid and the pump handle was heavy. I took over for him. "I'll get it going. What in the devil did you do to get yourself this filthy? Here, stick your head under that and get the mud out of your hair. It doesn't do any good just to wash your hands when you're that dirty. The water's cold," he complained. Well, you wouldn't have to wash in it if you didn't wallow in the dirt like a hog. I wasn't wallowing, he said with dignity. I was exploring and found a cave. It has bats in it. Wash, I commanded. I shoved his head under the water, ignoring the ball of protest as I helped him get the rest of the dirt out of his hair. I guess there was enough of Pappy in me that I wasn't too gentle as I scrubbed. By the time I was through, he was considerably cleaner. Dang it, Matt, you're trying to drown me. His freckled face was screwed up in anger. He took a swing at me that I blocked easily. Nope, I said briefly. I'd throw you in a pond if I were trying to do that. Stay out of the cave. You don't know what lives in it. It could bite you. I told you they was bats. They were bats, I corrected. I gathered up his dirty shirt, which was now wringing wet. Now get inside and let Ma'am find you a clean shirt and take your shoes off at the door. I've already swept up one mess you made, and I don't care to clean another. With a murderous look at me, he did as I said. I carried the dirty shirt to the tub where we kept the things we needed to wash and threw it in. I didn't know if Abel would ever be civilized, but as long as I was around, I was going to do my best to tame him. So that's a little bit from Matt's point of view. It kind of gives you an idea of what their lives are like. I forgot to read the back of the book. I'm going to read that to you now. Like moths to a flame, three people are drawn inexorably into a web of dreams that beckons and lures them onward even as it threatens to consume them all. Set against the backdrop of the last year of the Dust Bowl, Candle of Dreams is a story that deals with human nature and enduring love. Part of a displaced family seeking survival during the dirty 30s. Matt is a dreamer who dares to dream far beyond the circumstances of the itinerant life he and his impoverished family have been forced to lead. Their search leads them down Route 66 from Missouri to the farm of Daniel Gillespie, who has managed to hang on to his land by sheer determination and hard work and a stash of gold coins that his father hoarded away. A stash of gold coins would come in handy about any time, I would think. But yeah. Gillespie hires Matt's father. It is while they are talking that Gillespie's daughters, Coral, Lee, and Micah, appear on the scene, and the seeds of a forbidden love are planted and flourish in secret. Frustrated by her inability to win Matt for herself and fueled by her feelings, Micah sets events in motion that will haunt them the rest of their lives. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. Highly recommend. Available on Amazon. I think it is on Ingram Spark, so it should be at several outlets, Walmart.com, several other places. But if you can't find it anywhere else, I know it's on Amazon. It's very, very, very good. So today, reading it, I wore my overalls. I had used a quilt as a backdrop because I knew that both of those were mentioned in here. So until next time, have a great day, be blessed, and read books.